Good morning, everybody. Oh my God. Listen, this is an answered prayer because I did not know exactly how today would go. And I just been over here praying and believing like the church folks say. But I want to welcome you to the Moncrief Springs Art and Activism podcast. And I have so many things that I want to share with you in a very short time frame. I only have an hour. And the first thing I want to tell you is that we're doing a live remote from Cafe Resistance. Oh my God. Can you believe that we are here in this beautiful space on the Northside, baby? And I would like to thank Miss Angie Nixon for letting us do a live remote pop-up here at the Cafe Resistance bookstore and coffee shop. And it is a beautiful space. They're open today from 10 until 2. And so if you are out and about, please pull up and see us. You'll be able to witness the Moncrief Springs podcast being recorded live and streamed live right here at Cafe Resistance. And you'll be able to check out some of your favorite Black authors here at the bookstore. And you'll be able to get some really nice beverages. There's coffee brewing as we speak. So I want to get into it so that we can start this conversation. I have a very special guest I'm going to introduce you to today. And I also want to thank my production assistant who's off camera, Cola Be Talking with Black in the Garden podcast. She is assisting me today. I'm new to it, but she's true to it. And so we're going to do the best we can. But I'd love to hear your comments and get some feedback from you about how your experience is going. Like this post and share it. Let somebody know that we're streaming live. I want to thank our sponsors for today, Black Films Matter. I really appreciate Trey Ford and Aaron Day for supporting Moncrief Springs from day one. And so I would love to give them a shout out. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and anywhere you want to see Black film content, definitely check out Black Films Matter. I also want to give a shout out to Martinique Lewis, my sister. She is the creator and founder of the ABC Travel Green Book, which is an app where you can find all your Black businesses anywhere that you travel across the African diaspora. So before we get into our conversation, I want you to hear from Black Films Matter and Martinique. Take a listen.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Trey Ford.
And I'm Aaron Day, and we are the co-founders of Black Films Matter. We started Black Films Matter in 2018 with what was supposed to be a small private screening for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, but it immediately exploded into something way larger than we could imagine, which was the birth of Black Films Matter.
So we took it from Black Panther to a blaxploitation series, which are those films that came about in the 70s when people of color didn't have a lot of opportunity in the industry. Then we brought the brand to Jacksonville with Queen and Slim private screening, the Photograph private screening, and most recently, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom to commemorate Chadwick Boseman's last film with a rooftop cocktail party and private screening there as well. So
we create dynamic film experiences for people of color. Whether it is a private screening or a drive-in movie, we want to bring it to a city near you.
So our end game is to be the pioneers of the rebirth of Dreamland Theater, which was destroyed almost 100 years ago in the Tulsa race riots in a place that was nicknamed Black Wall Street. And so follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Black Films Matter, spelled exactly like that. And on Facebook, it's BLK Films Matter.
Black traveler, from the moment I arrive in any destination, I want to know where the Black communities and Black-owned businesses are. And for the first time ever, there's an app for that. The ABC Travel Green Book app is the smartest way for travelers to connect with the African diaspora globally. The ABC Travel Green Book app allows you to find Black-owned businesses through filters and keyword searches. This app houses everything in one place so you can search without the hassle. Don't see a business in the app? No worries. The Recommend a Business feature is there to help us stay up to date so that everyone wins. Traveling solo but still want to connect with people and places that celebrate you? No problem. At your discretion, you can set your profile to available and meet with others in your area. Not only can you identify Black-owned businesses and set your own itinerary, you can review them too. When it comes to Black history and important landmarks, no worry, we got you. The app helps identify what the museums and media doesn't. It tells our stories. This app will revolutionize the way we travel. This app is the one we've all been waiting for. With everything at our fingertips, connect with the African diaspora today. The ABC Travel Green Book app is available now.
All right, y'all clap it up for ABC Travel Green Book with my girl Martinique Lewis. Y'all can find her as Marty San Diego on Instagram and Facebook. And definitely thank you again to Black Films Matter, Trey Ford, and Aaron Day. So a lot of people have been hearing about Moncrief Springs, but a lot of people don't know exactly what the documentary is for and what it's doing. Moncrief Springs is a documentary about how travel in urban areas helps preserve Black history. And so as I've been doing research for the film, I've been telling stories about the people who live, work, and play on Moncrief Springs. And the Moncrief Springs territory actually includes quite a bit of the Northside community. If y'all are from Jacksonville, you know that Moncrief Road goes all the way and stretches from Sutel all the way down to the point where Myrtle and Moncrief merge together. And then I continue my research into Durkeeville, which if you take Myrtle Avenue all the way to Beaver Street, that's another historic community. When you think about Moncrief Springs, you should think about people like A.L. Lewis. You should think about Eartha White. You should think about Clanzell Brown. You should think about Mary Singleton. These are all the people who lived in these historic Black neighborhoods along the Moncrief-Myrtle corridor. And so through my documentary, I'm inviting people to visit Moncrief Springs so that we could preserve Black history and so that we could really bring some new life to our urban communities and really protect and preserve our Black neighborhoods. So how do we get to this conversation about art and activism? As I've been doing the research, I've been coming into contact with a lot of Black artists who are doing the same thing. And guess what? If you are the Christian faith, you believe like I believe, where there's unity, God commands the blessing. And so as I've been connecting myself with other artists and people of a like mind, we're all saying the same thing, that there's a lot to love on the North Side, and that when you invest in the North Side, you're investing in Jacksonville. And so my special guest, Malcolm Jackson, he's going to be joining us today. Malcolm is I'm gonna say world-renowned photographer, but he's homegrown. He is from Jacksonville, and he's gonna tell you about his story. He has an exhibit at the Ritz Theater that's on display right now called Coastlines. And so I'm gonna bring Malcolm on so that he can tell you more about himself and he can introduce you to his work. So come on to the stage, Malcolm, and let the people know who you are and what you're doing. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me again, Dana.
You're welcome. We made it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Listen, behind the scenes, we was doing our kind of sound test and tech support, and we're still saying a prayer that the Wi-Fi don't drop on us. But if you're watching this live stream, give us a heart, leave a comment. Like I said, my production assistant is watching the social feed, so we want to get into the conversation. Malcolm, thank you again. Just thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you again. Ever since when I met you at the Ritz at the opening of my show, it's been great. And I love the story that you're telling with Moncrief Springs for even somebody who knows a lot about that area, or think I do. I'm learning more new things that you kind of put to me, and looking at the area in a whole different light, even more different than what I did before. So you're doing the work.
That sounds good. Well, I think you know a lot about Moncrief Springs, and that's why I was really interested in interviewing you, because I know that a lot of your lived experiences inspire your photography and your work, which, by the way, if I didn't already say it, y'all can find Malcolm Jackson's work at the Ritz Theater. It's on display now through September. It's called Coastlines. Definitely go and check him out. As I think about that, I wanted you to tell people a little bit about your experience growing up. What was growing up on the North Side like for you? What was your street? What was your hood? Where did you grow up at?
Everywhere. There was an old saying that's like, now where you from is where your grandma from. So, I had one grandma on my dad's side from Sherwood. My mom's mother grew up 45th in Cleveland, Sunny Acres area. So I've been everywhere, stayed out done, spent a lot of time out east. My dad's originally from LaVilla Uptown, so it's not a stretch of road on the North Side that I haven't touched.
I understand that. I feel the same way, because, when you think about migration patterns, even within the city, if your grandparents or your great-grandparents lived in one area, as they had kids, those kids move a little further out. They upgraded, get better jobs, progress in society, get that big house in the suburbs, and then they have kids, and the same thing happens. We kind of spread further out from those old neighborhoods. And so with your experiences growing up and having ties to La Villa, having ties to out east, what is something that you really loved about your upbringing on the north side? Like, was there a particular like store y'all used to go to, or a particular neighbor or experience that was really fun to you, tied to your community?
Where to begin? I mean, just the food and the diversity of food. I think that's one thing that's really not talked about when you talk about the North Side. Yeah, the North Side is, predominantly African American, but the diversity and what was being served to us over there opened up my mind to a wide range of things. So when I went out of town, I wasn't nothing looked at strange. I like, oh man, like, I get this at Nesbitt's, or I can go to any crab shack and get the same thing that you're trying to serve me now. So, again, from going to places like Nesbitt's and, even little Chinese place that you'll see your uncle working at, this experience and everything, like the old Sherwood with the Magic Mall and everything in that region, to the football games, from Forest View and Grand Park, and learn about a lot of those traditions. And of course, the honey dripper with the candle lady. Every neighborhood had at least one or two of them that you would go to. Sometimes you would know them by name, but usually it was the candle lady. You go to the front door or to whatever window she was using, and get what you need, and keep on rocking and rolling.
We had a honey dripper lady in my neighborhood too, and she was selling out her garage, and you'll see the line just piling up at her garage, and she open, she got the honey drippers. Remember that. And then you mentioned Nesbitt's. Oh my God, how old is Nesbitt's? And listen, I still pull up about 9 o'clock, go see Miss Jackie, get me the shrimp dinner with the French fries and a potato salad.
Oh yeah, they still around. It's been a minute since I've been back to Nesbitt's, but I mean, we can go down memory lane. I mean, you got them. You got, of course, Marianne's. That was on 45th Moncrief. That was the one I went to. I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, that was mine too, because my grandmother lived on Braskew, not far from the YMCA.
Oh yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. So I mean, even that YMCA, I grew up going to that one right there on Cleveland Road. And of course, most of my family went to Range, so I have a lot of connection to there, and even hanging out in Magnolia Gardens. In the Florida area. So, like I said, it's not a part of town on that particular side of town that I hadn't touched. And the diversity and what we learned in the diversity of being Black in these areas was really, really cool. Like, you didn't feel out of place anywhere on the North Side, no matter what you was into. If you was into sports, there was an area that you can go for that. If you was into culinary, there's thousands of places you can go eat. There's a million different parks you can go to and have some fun with your friends. And you can learn about cars, going all the way up Lynn Turner with the hill and seeing about the old Volkswagen Bugs and everything. I mean, Beetles, that was up there. So, a lot of diversity, and took a lot of pride in coming from that area.
I'm glad you said that, because talking about the pride and the culture, how did all those memories, all those experiences growing up, being, on the North Side, inform your work? Tell us a little bit about Coastlines and the inspiration behind that exhibit and the photographs that you have on display.
Yeah. So, with my line of work, I've always kind of told this little story that, Bob Self, he's about to retire from the Florida Times Union newspaper here in Jacksonville. He was like the one photographer I seen. He was a white guy from Baltimore, but he was like the one white guy that I seen that was taking photographs of us. Because the only profile that I seen of a Black person, unfortunately, was on the news, and it wasn't a negative connotation. So I decided, well, I'm going to take pride in making sure we look, right, and in a realistic and hopefully a positive situation, but also what really is going on. Okay, so if you might have a mugshot of this person, we need to show the environment on why this could be causing that issue. So I took a lot of that into my personal work, and again, coming from the North Side, where we have so much of this stuff, and there's so much culture and so much tradition that shaped this city, that made the city cool, from an outside perspective. Taking more pride in trying to showcase and document those traditions and the stories that we have. There's a lot of stories that come out of Jacksonville that derive from this side of town, that have shaped this country. And they're not told because it's a small media market. But if you have the power and the truth of it, there's no reason the story can't be told, and somebody can't relate to that. With Coastal Beach, for example, American Beach, while it's up in Fernandina, for anybody who's from Jacksonville who especially grew up in its heyday, especially I'm sure everybody from Northside has been there. That is still a place that they talk highly of. And again, A.L. Lewis, who was a Northside guy, he stayed right where I-95 runs, not too far from Moncrief Road. As a matter of fact, he found a bunch of this land up in the Media Island Plantation area, bought it, and in 1935, it became American Beach, where a lot of his clients would come down from all over the country, and became one of the oldest public Black beaches in America. I think you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you.
No problem.
I was thinking about when you mentioned Abraham Lincoln Lewis, about how his influence is felt even today all across the neighborhood. We know that Abraham Lincoln Lewis had strong connections to Eartha White, and Eartha White's farm still stands. Her house still stands on Moncrief Road. And then I even read an article by Ennis Davis that said Abraham Lincoln Lewis started a golf course, Lincoln Lewis Golf course. And I was like, God, those people were so innovative and had such an impact on their time that it lasted even until today. Because Abraham Lincoln Lewis was the first Black millionaire in Jacksonville. A lot of people don't even know that. So from American,
the whole state.
the state, right? Yeah. Right. But we claiming him, okay? We claiming him.
No, that's ours. He definitely ours.
And so I love that your work is giving us a reason to say his name and even consider his life and the work and the influence that he had on the community. And, this series is art and activism. And, when we were together last week, for those of y'all that missed it, we were with the Jacksonville Urban League last week at the Ritz, and we had a conversation about art of the movement. And we were talking about how artists, people like you, people like myself, are taking the lead in the conversation when it comes to social progress and community development. How has your work contributed to the conversation when you think about neighborhood preservation, Black history? How has your photography influenced people?
Well, the number one thing for me in my work is if it evokes any kind of emotion, then I've done my job. And especially the work I do in Jacksonville, I'm definitely trying to evoke as much emotion to wherever I'm photographing, and then trying to have some type of conversation no matter where I am. I think a lot of people who are from here who may not know about what's going on the north side or out east, they see the work from a whole new world, a whole new perspective that open their eyes, and they have no idea, oh, I didn't know this was Jacksonville was a part of Jacksonville. I didn't know this was a thing. And then they see the reality of these neighborhoods after they get past the fun traditional things that they might have learned about. And then we're able to kind of have that conversation. So we're able to kind of go from a two-layer situation. On the surface level, it looks great, but then you're able to kind of go underneath the curtain there a little bit and take a look at what's really, really going on.
Yeah. And you said something earlier that resonated with me. You said there's a lot of Black stories and they're not being told. And as soon as you said that, I thought about Mr. Rodney Hurst, who's former city councilman, activist, author, Black history icon himself. And he says this all the time, and he named his book after this phrase: if we don't tell it, who will? And so I take great pride and great responsibility in not only learning stories, collecting the stories, but retelling the stories. Because if we don't know where we came from, how do we know where we're going? And in the Black community, we say that a lot, but it's so true. If we don't know what our mom, our grandparents, our grandfathers did to lay the foundation for us, then we really don't know how to be good stewards of what they left behind, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's who made us who we are, and that's a part of our sauce. as Black people, is the stories that's passed down and the traditions that's passed down and passed on to the next group, and what they do with those stories and what they do with those traditions, and how it continues to evolve us and progress us as a people, in the city sense or in the national sense. Our stories are very, very important to us. And I kind of take myself on as that. It's more so of me being a photographer, but more being a storyteller and allowing myself to tell these stories that the world is providing me, but also, harnessing those traditions and passing them on and letting them be seen like, hey, this is what we used to do. You can run with this, or maybe you see this from a different perspective that can be better, and just progressing and getting better and better and better through our stories.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a good segue to my next question. So as a photographer / storyteller, what's your process? I'm sure there's listeners and people watching right now who have a camera and they're like, I really love taking pictures, but I don't know if anybody will, appreciate my work. How do I turn my passion as a creative into maybe something that's full time, or maybe something that can be utilized in, storytelling for my community? What's your process? Where do you start? And in your process, thinking about what you're going to photograph, the story behind the image. Tell us about your process.
It's changed over
Loaded
time a
question.
little
I
bit.
know, loaded question.
It's changed over time. In my line of photography, I've kind of not specialized, but I've had an emphasis on street photography or documentary work, I guess they call it now, of pretty much taking photographs of the more mundane moments. And for me, those more mundane moments are more lively because they allow us to see what's really going on at a bare bones ordeal, and allows us to have a better conversation and get more emotion out of it. But for me, it's kind of a depending on the scenario. One, if I'm out in the street and I'm, in an area where like I'm at a party or something, or the same at Lana Miller Park, for example, I may just go walk among the crowd and just kind of chill and just be a part of it. And from there, I'll just feel the groove and just kind of, take photos as I can. And in other cases where it may be something that might be more, if you might have a thought on, okay, I want to photograph this story, let's say, okay, I want to do a photograph on honey dripper ladies or something like that. In that point, you would find out, okay, what do you like about honey dripper ladies? What are you trying to highlight of them? And then, just go reach out and ask. You can only be told no, and you can just keep on going. But if it's a story that you want to tell, you'll continue to work on it. But in the best that I've seen for my line of work is more so just going out and just letting the camera go. Just try to be as much in the moment as I can, so I can get a feel for how everything's moving, and allows me to try to be as honest in my work as possible.
I respect that. So one thing you said is, nobody can tell you no. You got to be bold. You got to have that courage that your truth, your vision, your story matters. And so as you're documenting and capturing, and I remember when we were together on the last panel, you talked a lot about Gordon Parks.
Oh yeah.
And how he was the inspiration for you. Talk about that.
Yeah. Gordon definitely was a big inspiration on my work. And similar to Gordon would meet these people, and he just would build these relationships with them, and just would end up photographing. But what people didn't know about Gordon was when he first meets somebody, he really wasn't taking pictures. He'd just be out holding his camera and just, again, getting the feel for the environment. And there's a lot of stories where they'd be like, you ain't gonna take no pictures? Like, I'll take pictures when the time is right. And, I kind of took that same approach to some of my work. But what made Gordon so great, and that I've also taken with me, is he didn't use the camera as a camera. He called the camera his weapon to fight against poverty, against race relations. It was more of a weapon for him. And I try to think of the camera as being not necessarily a weapon, but it allows me to use it as creating this universal language to say everything that I can't. I'm not really the biggest talker in the world, but the camera allows me to communicate in ways that I may not be able to. and allows me to convey the story I'm trying to tell. And in reality, I'm trying to tell both positive or negative that needs to be heard.
I like that. I came to know Gordon Parks as a filmmaker, and so that's my medium of choice. And I mean, the rawness of his imagery, it makes you, it provokes you, and when you look at the subject matter, you can't deny what's happening at that moment and how he froze it or how he told the story in a film. And I like how you said that it's a weapon, it's a tool, it's a weapon. I mean, I'm in Cafe Resistance, and so we here for the resistance. And I think as Black artists, we have to have that assertiveness with our work, because we have to use it as a weapon to advance our mission, our agenda. I mean, I think there's still a lot of Black folks that are waiting for promises to be fulfilled in our own communities, and we can't wait for somebody to do it for us. We have to hold people accountable, make them report back what they promised us and what they're doing to fulfill those promises. And a lot of times, you know, the artists are the ones who have the visibility to hold them accountable. And so I'm hoping that myself, yourself, other artists like us, that we'll keep that thought in mind, that our art is a weapon, it's a tool, and we have to use it for the uplift of the race, the uplift of the community. And, you know, thinking of people like Gordon Parks and so many other Black artists who came out of the 60s and the 70s, we have a mission of our own. It may be 2024 and we done came a long way, but we still have so much further to go. I want to remind everybody that we are recording live from Cafe Resistance. We're doing our live remote here. We want to thank Miss Angie Nixon for allowing us to pop up at her shop. They're open from 10 to 2 today, and you can come check out Black authors. You can come get coffee. It's brewing as we speak. And I want to thank Malcolm Jackson for joining us. I also want to ask you this, Malcolm. You know, when I think about art and activism, which is the theme of this series, people come from various places of orientation. Some are self-taught, some are formally trained. Can you talk about maybe your training and where your work has taken you? Because I've seen some locations and some places where your work has been that is fantastic for those of us from Jacksonville to see somebody from our hometown make it to these platforms, to these arenas. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so for me, I was actually self-taught to a degree. I grew up running track as a kid, and you know, any kid who wants to be a pro athlete, their only thought in their head is, I want to go pro, you know, and do whatever. So that was all my mindset from a young age to, you know, pretty much high school, and I didn't think of nothing else, you know, in my life at that point. And injuries piled up in high school, and I kind of see that dream fade away, and I didn't have anything else. I didn't have any other drive. But I remember when I was younger, my uncle, who got me into photography to a degree, he used to do weddings and stuff, and he used to take me on photo safaris. So I've always had a little bit of that in the back of my head. So after my track career pretty much was done with, I you know, fell down into a bad spell, and I ended up picking up, you know, phone camera. And one of my childhood best friends, we went on a trip to DC, and I just kept taking pictures with my phone and just getting the angles and stuff, and just kind of just coming back natural and kind of showing my uncle a lot of stuff. And my brother's best friend at the time got me my first camera when I was in 11th grade, and it's pretty much been off to the races from there. You know, it's the very most millennial way to go about it, and the beginnings of YouTube and stuff in that time period. So I was able to kind of learn through the internet on things I wanted to know about.
Yeah. So tell us some of the places that your work has taken you to. I know you have gone beyond Jacksonville.
Yeah, I've been able to travel as far east as Japan. I've been able to photograph in Tokyo. I've been able to work and show my work in, you know, San Francisco, New York City, Photoville. I've been featured in publications with the New York Times, the Washington Post. I've done work with Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery, for All Elite Wrestling. So the you know, I'm blessed that the camera has been allowed me to travel the world and tell unique stories, and allowed me to live my authentic self.
That's the key, the authentic self. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, from Jacksonville and growing up here to Netflix, New York, Japan, and all those places. What do you think has been your consistent message from home to across the world? When people see your photographs, what has the most consistent message been from your work?
Well, it's kind of two messages. One was from the people that's from here. You can come from the crib and you can do it. I'm blessed that I didn't have to leave Jacksonville and I've been able to get these opportunities. Um, and as long as you put the work in, I mean, that's really the number one ordeal. It don't matter where you move to. It's all about what the work that you put in, and then do you believe in yourself enough that you can continue to go with it. The other part I would say would be, um, again, speak your truth, and no matter what art form that you choose, and that'll take you wherever you need to go.
I like that. I like that. I'm so excited about where you're going next. I know that coastlines will continue to be on display at the Ritz. Can you tell people how they can get tickets and where they can uh, experience coastlines?
Yeah, you can go up to the Rich Theater in La Villa. I believe the museum is open on Wednesdays and Sundays. And you can purchase tickets at the front office there and go check it out. Again, Coastlines is an exhibition talking about Black beaches in Florida and the culture around it. I have photographs I've done from American Beach back from 2019 to 2023. Um, and there's also Weldon Ryan, who done a lot of portraiture with the carnival side of the African diaspora and beach life. And there's also a smaller exhibition explaining the history of Manhattan Beach, which was found out is actually officially the first Black beach in Florida that Henry Flagler left. And Manhattan Beach is where Hanapaka is now for those in the Jacksonville area. So there's a section, I think, northern Hanna Park, where Manhattan Beach stood, and that was considered the first Black beach in the state of Florida.
Yeah, we got to know that history, because when people go into the museum and they see your photographs, we do pretty much, if people are connected to their Black history in Jacksonville, we know about American Beach, but we don't know the history behind it and why that beach was so significant to our history. And, every time I go out there, I live on the north side near the airport. So Fernandina is not far from us. So we go out, there to the beaches and stuff. And I look at that water and I try to think back, and your photos are of modern day American Beach, but I think about, photos from the archives when police was dragging Black folks and arresting Black folks because Black beach, white beach, things like that. And I'm like, how could there ever be a time where people think they could designate God's land that He made, one for Blacks, one for whites? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's wild. And again, when you kind of think back about the history of American Beach itself, um, American Beach sits on a Million Island plantation. So the plantation part, for those who don't know, yeah, they came through. Those slave ships came through where American Beach sits today. So to start from there, so to start from those ships coming in from to the Million Island plantation, going to Kingsley and other plantations, north and south, or wherever. And even some ships that didn't make it that would come in this direction to, I guess, 100 years or less than 100 years later, a Black millionaire bought all of that land back so that people who look like him could be able to celebrate the simple enjoyment of just playing in God-made water.
Right.
Like that's, I think there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of power in that. And again, for some, while that may be a little more extravagant, I think that's the American dream. Not that you need to go buy a beach, but the fact that you can take something that started from nothing and you was able to get to this next point and speaking back to that progression of, you was bringing us out on this land to work us, and now we came back as pleasure and leisure. So everything you did for us, you can't stop us.
Yeah, so as you were talking, I remember my husband and I took our sons out there to Fort San Carlos, and we had never been to that particular site, but like I said, we go and hang out at American Beach all the time, and there's a museum out there for y'all who want to get more versed in your Black history. But there's a plaque out there, and I want to share this with you. It's called the UNESCO Slave Route Project, Resistance, Liberty, Heritage. And I think it's the Jaguars Foundation helped get this marker put in place. And I think the Friends of Fernandina, another historical society or something like that. But they document through this plaque that even after slavery was outlawed, as far as importing new slaves, when the importation of slaves from Africa was outlawed, Fernandina was a smuggling port. And so Fernandina was a safe haven for people who wanted to sneak Africans in. And so when you think about Amelia Island Plantation, when you mentioned that, that triggered my thought. A lot of the enslaved people who were in Amelia Island were beyond just the regular Atlantic slave trade. A lot of them were smuggled in even after importing Africans was outlawed. And so I think about what that trauma was like. And the marker goes on to say that if there was a patrol and the captors thought they would be caught, they would abandon the Africans that they were transporting in Fernandina. Mm-hmm. And so I just think about, the lived experiences of, the ancestors who came by way of the boat to Fernandina and to Northeast Florida and to Jacksonville by way of Amelia Island. The trauma that is associated with that is just, it leaves me speechless. And I'm just so thankful that you and I met and that I could learn more about your work, because it gave me a reason to look deeper and to read more. And when you talked about, again, your art being a weapon, it's really a tool to, motivate us to action. How can those of us who are the viewers of your work, those of us in the audience, how can we be moved to action to talk about what we experienced and what we learned from seeing your work? So
yeah, definitely. And it's again going back to the point about our stories. And again, this is a story that, believe it or not, even people in Jacksonville don't even know these stories. So that's why it's so important to tell them, no matter how local you think that they are. Every story is important, regardless of what you think of it, and it needs to be told. And once you tell it and you let the world find out about it, everything else will take care of itself.
Agreed. And so I know we're getting close to wrapping up our conversation. I wanted to thank anybody who has been listening online. This interview is part of an 8-part series where we'll be talking to other artists and community leaders about art and activism and how that can be a tool to help protect and preserve Black neighborhoods. Next week, we're going to have Rashad Hawkins, who's a poet, a writer, and a musician. He'll be joining us. And I hope that those conversations like this one with Malcolm will inspire you to act. I think that when you consider the Black neighborhoods in Jacksonville, particularly on the north side, because I know if you look at other sides of town, there's always a Black community that kind of emerges. But when I think about the north side and I think about Durkeeville, I think about Moncrief Springs, I'm talking about the historic neighborhoods, even La Villa. It is time that we really elevate and amplify, and I mean, get a huge microphone and talk about the stories and the histories of these communities. I was talking to someone and I said, yeah, a business owner. I said, yeah, y'all need to do more stuff on the north side. And I said, Moncrief, and they're like, well, we don't really consider that the north side. That's more northwest. I said, when I was growing up, anything north of the bridge was the north side. And, certain groups feel like they don't have to cross the bridge, to have experiences, and they get kind of snobby about it. But those of us on the north side, we always have to cross the bridge if we want to go to a movie theater, if we want to go to a mall. I mean, especially now with the Gateway Mall not being in its prime like it was 20 years ago or more. But, we really have to, as artists, Malcolm, you and I, we have to use our platforms to really elevate these spaces and these times and really speak to these times. So I'm so thankful for your Coastlines project, and I'm really excited about what's next for you. Is there anything that we could look forward to? What's next on your agenda? What's the next project that you have in your hands?
Well, the next project actually is Jack's Photo Festival that'll be happening very soon in September. We're looking at Lift Every Voice the Scene Park in September. Just kind of stay up to date on my website with more information about that. Basically, that came about. I remember being in Photoville in Brooklyn, New York, and Photoville is a big photo festival that use shipping containers underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and they bring photographers all over the world and stuff. And I was, thankful with this opportunity, but it always had me thinking about back home and how can I reach back and give artists and photographers, that chance to not live in that spotlight, but just give them a chance to be able to highlight their work and highlight what they're doing and being from here. And again, anything that I do, I'm always looking back as how can I bring, my community from my city forward to continue on with their dreams too. It's not just about my dreams. So that's the big thing we're working on, and that will be in La Villa. So again, we're working on bringing La Villa back to its prime stages again with that, and just stay up to date. We currently have an open call out, so if any photographers and then on here or listening to this podcast, feel free to go to my website, moutjacks.com, and get more information and submit some work. And let's see if we can get you up there, get you in there, and get your work shown, and let's have some fun. Otherwise, and this album,
Yeah. I have a few photographers in mind. I'm gonna be tagging them in this post. If you are a photographer, Malcolm Jackson just gave it to y'all. Get on his website. Remind them of the dates of that again. And you said it's gonna be in La Villa?
Yeah, so the target dates we're looking at is September 21st and 22nd. We're looking at Lift Every Voice and Scene Park in La Villa, the newly opened Lift Every Voice and Scene Park.
Yes, I was there for the ribbon cutting. The ribbon cutting was so beautiful. Yes.
It was beautiful. And me and my fiance, we took our girls there, and they had a blast instantly. So it was heartwarming. Again, La Villa is like home. That's where my dad, came from. Our family business started in La Villa. So La Villa is always going to be special to me. So being able to do this and be able to bring it back to La Villa, it touches the heartstrings. And seeing them play around in La Villa, that made it that much more special for me.
Councilman Jimmy Peluso got on the mic and he said that park was a symbol for the unfulfilled promises, and also a almost like repentance from the city for what they did to La Villa, because La Villa has very few remnants of what it was at its glory days. And that park, is on the land where James Weldon Johnson's childhood home once was. And you think about so many administrations back, they allowed the house to be torn down. And I'm like, we can't blame the politicians and the people in power. We as the people have to fight for what we love. And so I'm so glad that there were advocates and people who were on committees and even just community members who contributed to the conversation to have that park put in place. And specifically Mr. Lloyd Washington at the Jacksonville Historical Museum, he's executive director. 12 plus years, I think he said, working and writing plans and meeting with folks to make sure that the Lift Every Voice and Scene Park happened. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about art and activism. Like, you can make the art, but it has to be put into action. And you have to have your activism, but you have to have something that translates that passion so that other people can understand it and really join the movement. And usually anytime you bring art in, it's a universal language and people can join and be a part of that movement with you. So I'm just thankful that you'll be having that come to La Villa. And I be telling people, anything Black, I'm on. Anything Black, I'm going to support. And so whether it's La Villa, Durkeeville, whatever. You're going to see me with my Moncrief Springs shirt in the building, and I'm going to support it. I also want to make sure people remember that, your exhibit Coastlines is at the Ritz Theater. If you're just joining the live stream, we have Malcolm Jackson with us, a world-renowned photographer, and he confirmed that he's had his work shown in Japan and all over California, different places. He's right here, homegrown in Duval. And I'm just so thankful that you were available and interested in having this conversation with me and connecting with me. It really means a lot. I'm really hopeful that the work I'm doing with Moncrief Springs can not just reach the masses, but impact the masses. And the masses are the people who live, work, and play on the north side and feel like they're not seen. Moncrief Springs is supposed to be a display of the rich history and the vibrant culture that you see when you come down Moncrief and Myrtle. And so knowing that you're from this community and knowing that you've gone on to accomplish your dream and are continuing to dream and accomplish more things, it just makes me very proud.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, we have to take pride in our areas where we come from, and not just because of the city runs off with a lot of traditions that we created, but also for that next generation to take pride in these same places and build upon that. So then, okay, it may look a little run down, but it's still the best food you ever had. So maybe that'll push you to help, revitalize that area a little bit in a positive light. And in a positive light to re-gentrify it in the right way that actually affects the community positively and looks out for the next generation.
Yeah. My grandparents always said, we ain't got much, but it's ours. Yeah. And we got to own it and we got to love it.
That's the American dream.
Yep. And I know you're a parent. I'm a parent. We have children. And it's such an honor to do this work in front of them and see our children witness this. And, they always say kids don't do what you tell them. They do what you do. And so when you live a life that's inspiring and admirable before them, they're not always going to respond by what you say. They're going to respond by what you do. So I'm so thankful that, you being a father, that you're able to do this work in front of your children. And we'll see what they do when they come up in the future and see what kind of life they live.
Yeah, I got 2 girls. And I never really thought about it that way when you said, but I really, really like that. With them, one of them, she's 9.5. And she's big into the arts, and I bring it to a lot of these show openings and art related things I may be a part of, and kind of seeing her reaction to certain things, and she always be asking, are you a famous artist, and all this. So we trying to figure out, kind of sometimes some more than monetary, but I can tell that she does get a little bit of inspiration of it, and she's proud of me, and that really warms my heart, with her.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pass her the torch. You're gonna have to pass her that torch. She's gonna be the next one.
Anything creatively I'm down with. I mean, I let her grab the camera every now and again, let her take some pictures, but I'm down with whatever creative avenue she wants to go, and just know that she has, our support, and try to push her that way. Try to get her to listen a little bit, but that's my baby, so it's okay.
That's a supportive dad. I love to hear it. Well, as we're wrapping up, I do have a special surprise for those of y'all who have been able to stay with us on this live stream for the duration of our interview. I am going to reveal our newest trailer for Moncrief Springs. And so I hope that y'all are really excited about the work we're doing. And I want to remind you that you can contribute to Moncrief Springs by giving a donation. Yesterday, when I was on my live, I shared with everyone that I had my 18th wedding anniversary. And when I did make that post, a lot of people were responsive and telling me congratulations. And I said, hey, congratulations is great, but let me tell you something you could do that takes it a little further. I asked everybody to make an $18 donation in celebration of Black love and Northside love. So while my anniversary was yesterday and I celebrated 18 years with Mr. Maule, I'm in love with him, but I'm also in love with the North Side. And so if you love the North Side like I do, I am asking you to make an $18 donation towards Moncrief Springs. I'd love your support. You can do that by dropping me a cash app at $ Dana Maule. That's DANAMAULE. You can see it in the ticker below. Or you can just inbox me and I'll send you a link and you can make a contribution on our Square donation page. Anything helps, everything counts. this film has to get finished, and we're not going to give up until it's done. We have projections to participate in the 2025 film festival circuit, and so I'm really excited about how Moncrief Springs will be able to compete in film festivals like South by Southwest, Sundance. And as I'm thinking about this particular project, there's quite a few people who have supported everything that I've done as I've become a budding filmmaker. And I do want to give a shout out to Adam and Monique Madrid. They have the LOL Film Festival that's coming up. The deadline's already passed for the LOL, but if you want to come and see the films, you can do that. That'll be in August, the weekend of the 3rd. And so I just want to thank them for their support. They came to my mind during this live stream. And, you know, every filmmaker needs somebody that's kind of like their cheerleader, and Adam and Monique have been that for me. I also want to thank my husband, Terry Maule, who's been ultimately supportive throughout every iteration of my career. And, you know, having family and friends around you who can support you and keep you inspired when you're having tough days, when you're feeling overlooked, underseen, undervalued, it really makes a difference. And I really also want to thank Angie Nixon for letting us come and do our live stream and our live remote here at Cafe Resistance. They'll be open all day today from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So come and find your favorite Black authors on the bookshelves and get you a cup of coffee or maybe a smoothie. She's here. She's got some stuff shaking and baking. And so without further ado, I'm going to give y'all a peek at the trailer for the Moncrief Springs documentary. And I'd love for you to leave me a comment, like, and share this post. And I hope that you all have a blessed day. And like I always say, the North Side is the best side, baby.
Jacksonville owes me nothing. This destination is filled with people who I call Jacksonville giants that make each neighborhood amazing.
We're striving just to stay, not just for Black history, but for history.
What we're overall trying to do, we're trying to put the culture back in agriculture because a lot of people are not familiar with urban agriculture.
We collect history, we share history, and we want to keep history because without it, we're lost. We're still considered as the best kept secret in town.